Adult-Based Education, Labe, Uganda, is the documentation manager, Nairuba, Joyce. Good morning.
Good morning, Flavia.
You and I were having a very passionate conversation about education off air, so I'm guessing there's a lot to tell our viewers.
I hope they love it.
Yes, what I'm holding is a complementary learning framework for early childhood care and education. We'll get into that. But I think what I asked you in the beginning when you and I were just talking, I was saying, what are we teaching? You know, and how are we teaching it? Are we teaching just a straight old curriculum that you and I went through? Have things changed? What are we adding on to it?
At the moment, I think what's going on is the kind of teachers that we are training are teaching this straight curriculum, and that is not very right, because everybody is focusing on passing examination, so much so that they've forgotten about what happens after the examinations. The children are drilled into these are the questions you're going to answer. This is how you answer
Cram
them.
the answers.
Cram the answers. Have you got it wrong? Then let's go back and revise it. Get it in that head, because that's what you're going to answer. And then when they're done with all that, there's the world that they're supposed to get into, and that's where things go wrong, because the minute you step into the world, the examination ceases to be helpful. So what are you going to do then? How are you going to survive when you leave the school environment? That is where we need to put our focus, I believe. We need to be able to help our children know that when I leave the school compound, I'm going to be meeting different people. How do I relate with these people? How do I make a living with what I have? There is that saying of make lemonade when you're given the lemons. So how do I get to do that if the exam paper is off my desk then?
Okay, so they teach us what it is. They don't teach us how to get to wherever we're going.
Nobody does that.
Because I was trying to think through, they're doing O-level exams. That's S4. At S4, they had started teaching us how to think, you know, so when you're writing an answer, it's all they're telling is more than 3 sentences. You know, just elaborate. And even then, you were elaborating for the sake of filling papers.
Exactly. But you're not being critical about the way you're analyzing something. There's this thing called project learning, because when you're given something from the curriculum, then you're given an assignment to go out there and look at how does it work. Why are they saying this is the answer? In other countries, when they're teaching the children, they will allow you to make your own judgment, and somebody will keep encouraging you to go further, look for more supportive evidence. Why do you say that? Nobody does that. In our country, nobody does that. As long as you've been able to answer the question, and is that what the teacher said? Did the teacher say 1 + 1
Actually,
is 2?
you're wrong if you critically think.
Exactly. If you question it, then you're wrong. You don't get that right. The teacher never comes back to you to ask, why did you think it was this? What evidence are you using to back up this? No, that doesn't happen. So I think that's completely wrong, and we need to rethink how we are doing our education.
Okay. One of the documents you had was saying the teaching in local language, and you actually were telling me there's a policy on teaching in the local language. Tell us about that.
So the government of Uganda has an education policy on using local language as a medium of instruction. That's perfect. That's really brilliant. They say it should be done from primary 1 to primary 3. But have the teachers been prepared enough? Are they equipped enough?
Is this new? Because I didn't
No, it's not. It's been here for I think since 2007.
Oh, okay.
Must have been around there. But it's been in practice, it's been in use, but the teachers don't know how to apply what is in the policy. And when they say use local language as a medium of instruction, it's not just about that. Are the materials, the supportive materials for this there? Have the teachers been trained well enough to be able to do this?
Maybe let's describe it for the viewer, what teaching in the local language ideally was supposed to mean. It's if I'm studying maybe colors. So to help me know colors, instead of saying red, you say it in the local language the same way I see it and use it at home.
It goes with something else. It goes with the thematic curriculum. Now the thematic curriculum is also a government document done by National Curriculum Development Center, again for primary 1 to primary 3. And in this, they don't teach subjects to primary 1 to 3 children. They teach themes, so that you know everything around you. So let's say they have chosen a theme which is about the home.
Yes.
And in the home, there are things that the child has been exposed to.
Yes.
So because the child has been exposed to this, if you use the local language, which they've also been using at home, they are able to participate in the discussion that you're having.
Yes.
So the teacher encourages them and asks what things are in your home. What have you seen there? But then you're doing this in local language, so the child is able to understand what you're saying, and then you're giving them an opportunity to participate, because it's okay for them to tell you it is Chikopo in Lusoga.
Yes.
And we have the Chino.
Not drum their heads looking for cap.
Yeah, what is this? How am I know the answer, but I don't know the English word for that answer.
Right.
So it gives them an opportunity to be creative, to be analytical, to even get back to the teacher and ask, why did you say this? If the teacher is using a story, then they are all attentive.
Yes.
It's not like, because in West Nile and Northern Uganda where we work, we again get into the classrooms. And when it was English, then the teacher would be talking about the boys and the girls and telling a story, and the child is actually doing the rote thing and responding, Kawo, Kapu, but they are actually not understanding what's happening. They are looking outside of the window. They just want to get out of that place as fast as they can.
They're not really part
and
of
yet
it.
if the teacher is using kakwa and telling them this story, everybody's really that attentive. They want to ask, they want to understand what's going on.
I hear you.
That's the beauty about using local language as a medium of instruction.
Okay, and I like that, because I think as adults, I've seen people always ask, what is this in Luganda?
Because you can only think in mother tongue.
Yes.
There is no way you can begin thinking in English. If somebody asks you something complex, you first of all have to go back to what you understand better, which is your local language.
Yes.
Then you say, oh, okay, now I get it. And you can be able to answer, you can be able to question it, but that is best done in your local language. A question for you, Flavia.
Yes.
Have you ever dreamt in English? Just dreaming. It's almost impossible, because naturally you're wired to think and do things in your own comfortable zones, which is local language.
Oh, wow.
So we should be applying this to the education as well, if we want the children to understand much better. The problem is, at the moment in Uganda, we have an early exit model, which means that using local language can only end up to primary 3.
Okay.
And then there is the transition class, and then you're supposed to slowly get into English. But the teachers don't know that. They think when they say transit, then I am transiting fully. Change the materials, stop local language, go straight into English. I don't care that you're not understanding, but they said transition, so I should start using English.
Okay.
And the problem is, again, the teachers who are doing this don't know what kind of how do I even use the English to teach the children. So they will carry an entire textbook in the classroom, read it for the child, and the child is just writing what the teacher is saying, even when they don't understand
I know this. Tell us, go to page 45 to 49.
You're lucky, because you had textbooks to look at. In the places where we work, the textbooks can be kept in the head teacher's office, locked up, beautifully packed out there, but the children are in the classroom, and the teacher is talking about the map of Africa, but there is no atlas.
They're going on what the teacher has drawn.
Yes.
They're bad artwork.
And there is Africa and Northern Africa. So what are the capital cities in Northern Africa? And then everybody just has to put up their hand and try. And if they fail, the teacher says everything and writes a full blackboard of African countries with their capital cities. No atlas, no nothing to look at.
But it's there. It's just not being used.
Yes, it's there. It's in the cupboard somewhere, but it's not coming out to be used.
Joyce, based on the people you've worked with and the districts you're working in, I feel like mindset is big here, because if you're telling me textbooks are there, the atlas is there, but it's covered somewhere. It's like, you know, an artifact that we're just supposed to look at. It's not mindset.
Somebody is going to come and ask whether these textbooks are there, so I need to keep them
there. Accountability.
Accountability.
Yes.
That is one thing, but I also believe it's about how we are trained as teachers. It's about, because the system that we are taking our children through right now is exactly the same system we went through.
Yes.
So if I wasn't taught properly, then I am not going to know how to help the children. So in my own judgment, I think the kids that we have right now are probably going to be worse, because the system they are going through is horrible, if I may say so. The teachers don't know how to use the atlas. So it is there, yes, and I know it is there, but I don't know how to apply that to my classroom. How do I use my environment? One time we were discussing with my colleague, and we were not very happy about what the children were going through, and it was about teaching a flowering plant, a flower. And trust me, the teachers could not even ask the children to get out of the classroom, pick some flowers, bring them back, and we look at them.
And study off looking at
exactly. them. But what does it take to get a flower? It's there, it's in the environment, it's in the compound, and you don't have to go out there as a teacher to pick it. You could just ask the kids to go and get it.
Someone said you're teaching people about beans, but not taking them to the garden.
To look at the beans, to see how the beans grow. That is what they call project teaching and project learning.
Yes.
The teachers, I remember at least sometime in our days, teachers would tell us to even plant those seeds to know how long does it take for this one to grow. It doesn't happen anymore. They don't have the time for that. They only have the time to prepare for examinations.
Yeah, I was even saying that I think the curriculum was closer to our past time than it is close to the future. So it's worse for the ones here. And for example, even if you say the map, if you're using the old atlases, things have changed.
Yeah.
Some countries have become something else.
Bigger.
Look at Uganda. We have more districts than we had.
Exactly.
So a lot of things need to change. So if a textbook is not changed or edited, then you're teaching something off a cake completely.
Totally.
So you said teachers are not trained. So that's you're speaking on the quality of teachers that we have. It's not that it's their fault. It's their training institutes where we need to start.
I believe that is where we need to go first.
Okay.
It's not that the teachers are not trained. I'll give an example. The primary teachers who are supposed to handle the thematic curriculum are trained, but using English. But you're saying when you get out of this institute, you're supposed to be using local language as a medium of instruction.
Yes.
But you're training me using English. So you're not showing me, you're not taking me through the journey that I'm supposed to take when I get out there into the classroom.
Then as a teacher, I'm posted to Kabong.
Thank you. So then how am I supposed to begin with this kabong? I don't even know the karamajong to use, and I wasn't trained in how to use the karamajong. I was trained using English. So it becomes a hassle for me to just change all this. And the thematic curriculum itself is written in English. So how am I going to use this English document, translate it, make the lesson plans, and then
a lot more work.
There's a lot more work to be done if this is to work.
Let's talk about find the quality of teachers, but what about the resources? Because teachers will come and tell you, we don't have enough resources to teach the students the way we would have
loved to do it. And it's okay for some parts of the country. Now, when we go up to where we work, that's a disaster. Why? There are minority languages up there, and no publisher is interested in doing something for a few people because it's not going to work. And some of them actually initially didn't even have orthographies, which are the guiding documents of how you write your language, how you speak it, and etc. So for us, we had to begin from helping them to put together orthographies. There are also other organizations which support this kind of work. But we've gone ahead, and for the primary schools, we've set up a few ICT hubs so that we can teach the teachers that you don't have to wait for Kampala to send the materials, because they might never come. They might come when these kids who are in P1 are now mothers. That is too late. So instead of waiting, we are training them in how can you use this basic ICT that you have, punching things here and there, and make a material that you can use in your classroom. Make it in Kakwa. Draw, get a diagram, get a picture, draw it, because you have some artists among you. Draw it and scan it, and then type words. Begin with the leveled readers, so that at least at the end of the day, the children have something they can touch. I know when they talk about learning, it's not enough for somebody to talk at you. You're not learning. You need to use your eyes, you need to use your ears, you need to be able to touch. So we are encouraging the teachers for them to be much more proactive and actually make their own materials, even using the environment around. And then they'll be able to help the children better. That's in terms of the materials. So what is there is not sufficient, but it does not mean that we let it be until it's one day sufficient. No, it's never going to be that. I think there was an interesting picture of a teacher, I don't remember the country, who had drawn the computer
with its keyboard and everything on the board for students, and was teaching them Control, Alt, Delete. This is where it would be on a computer, because where they were, they obviously did not have an access to a computer.
Exactly.
And they took a picture of it, and Microsoft, I think, ended up, or I think it was Apple, who ended up giving them computers and said, start somewhere. But you could, that was good, because the teacher took initiative
to try and do something.
And not just write the word computer and say there's a thing called a computer.
But draw it.
Draw it and think outside the box.
Exactly.
I'm with Nairuba Joyce from Literacy Adult-Based Education. You're doing very many great things throughout the country to make sure that, and as I want to quote you, you had said you're contributing to an informed society.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, and she's been talking to us about teaching in local languages. Did you know that there's a policy where P1 to P3, at the very least, you can be taught in your local language, so you can actually critically say or think and say H-kopo from home, and they can tell you yes, and in English it is a cup. So it sort of helps you learn.
But connect things.
When we come to adults, mom, dad, the maid, the community, the one selling on the roadside, whoever I, as a child, I interact with, is part of teaching me. Whether they want to or not. Whether they know it or not.
That's true.
You understand? And especially I learned this when I was interfacing with early childhood development, where they said, teach everyone at home what to do, because the child is with everyone at home. Now you have a complementary learning framework for early childhood care and education. This is up to 6 years old.
Yes, that's up to 6 years old.
3 to 6. Yes. So what does this do in the communities?
Okay. Well, as Labe, we believe in intergenerational learning and lifelong learning.
Yes.
And we believe that education is a journey. And it before they get to the examinations, the people who are going to do the examinations, they must be prepared for that journey. Now, the preparation begins at home. Just like you're going to visit someone, you don't prepare yourself along the way. You must prepare yourself before you leave. And we believe the preparation should begin at home in ECD. Now, the problem is the current ECD that we have, which is formal, cannot be sufficient to reach everyone. Think about Karamoja. Like you said, think about northern Uganda, somewhere in the rural areas inside there, West Nile. There are some places where the 80% of Ugandans who cannot afford to pay for that formal education.
But you know, you're going far. Even here in Kampala. We assume everyone can.
In the Katangas, yeah, we just make an assumption. Actually, you're right. So there are lots of people, 80% of Ugandans, we cannot pay for that formal kind of education. And so what we did was thinking of how do we reach those people who cannot pay for this, because they are also part of Ugandans.
The ones who are keeping their child up to 6 years old to send them to school. And you're missing all that time up to when the child is 6.
And because the school is far away from them, the kids cannot walk when they can't walk those long distances and cross the rivers when they're still that tiny. So what we did is thought of home-based ECD.
Okay.
And we have tried this, and we have done it in northern Uganda and West Nile, and we do it in what we call home learning centers. Okay. Now this is just a home where the neighbors come together and say, let's equip Flavia's home, and that is where all our children will go to learn from. So they agree on that, they cut down poles, they make their own swings using whatever is locally available. They get a volunteer parent who is saying, I'll put in my time to lead the sessions. And when this volunteer parent comes on board, that is the person we train.
All right.
And we have worked, because it's not a haphazard thing, it's actually in the policy, in the ECD policy, Ministry of ECD policy. We've worked with NCDC to come up with that complementary learning framework. It is exactly what is in the formal section, formal learning ECD framework, but it is adapted to being non-formal.
So the person in the community can teach, do it, even without background or experience.
Exactly. So they get the training, they get supportive documents like this, they have the lesson plans in here, and they are trained in how to do it, and it is in local language. So they can do it with their children there. It goes a step further, because remember, the parent is around, and the parent is the first teacher.
Yes.
So the parent is also on board. and they are also learning, how do I support my child while they are here? What if the child comes back home from primary school? What am I supposed to do as a parent? Because you remember,
not to say sit in the corner and do your homework.
No, you go and get the goats. Not even sit in the corner and do that. Would be brilliant if they would say sit in the corner,
go and wash plates, go and fetch
go
water,
get the cows. You put your books there. That is now nonsense. It doesn't. You will do that in school. That is wrong. But the parents don't know that. So we help the parents to understand what is my role in my child's education, rather than playing the blame game between teachers and parents. We also help the teachers to know, how do I bring the parent on board? When do I use the parent? What can the parent help me with? So that they don't keep to their own angles and say it is about teachers, it is about teaching, so nobody else would interfere. The parent is the first teacher. We still believe in that. So that is what happens with home-based ECD. It is something that can be done anywhere with as meager resources as possible. So we don't have to wait for when a nursery school will be built. We can begin now.
Simple. Or in Kabbalah's at home, you can be the one who has a center.
That is it. That is what we are saying.
Bring all your children around here. Today we'll be reading about this.
Exactly.
And that's as simple as a learning center.
As simple as that.
Labe has done brilliantly, because I feel like if you want to reverse some of the effects that we have today, that's where you start. You start with the next generation, young as they are. By the time they get to P5, they're questioning.
Exactly. What is going on? Why are you teaching like this? We've seen things happening differently. We were understanding much better in local language. So that is all about the home-based ECD, and we've seen it work, and it can work, and it is the only way to give these other children in rural communities, in marginalized communities, because the Ugandan policy talks about inclusive, equity. But how is it going to happen
if some people are left out?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
Very informative. That is Nairuba Joyce from Labe. That's the Literacy Adult-Based Education. I think we can access this anywhere.
At the moment you probably can't, but we'll put it on our website so that people can be able to access them, and it is a government document,
so it's also accessible.
Yes, it's
that's from the National Curriculum Development Center. Thank you, Joyce, for your time this morning.
My pleasure, Flavia.
All right, we're talking about changing how we can learn and how we can teach our youths and our young people, and to become, of course, the best citizens and best future we can give them. That's it for Morning at NTV. Have a good day.
Watching Morning at NTV.
Politics bamujje mu security. Eggwanga lyaffe ligenda kukola ki? Kufuna obuzibu. Nze omuntu wa wansi atula